Great, thank you. First on the agenda, I would like to take a look at the agenda itself and approve or amend the order of agenda.
I would make that motion.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. Next is to approve or amend the minutes from our May 19th meeting. Can I get a motion?
A motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, great. We're changing the order up just a little bit. We are going to put the public comment in at this point, and I see we have a guest here today. So we're going to, okay. So I'm going to open up the floor, and you are here to speak? Yes. Okay, and I think you know that it's a 3-minute limit. So I'd like you to come up, and if you come up and introduce yourself, and then once we've got that far, then we'll have the clock start. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, I'm Christopher Cohen. I'm a Fargo resident. So I looked at the agenda for tonight. I think one of the larger agenda items is discussing TAP and increasing TAP's role, having it added into a certain category so it can get more funds through National Endowment for the Arts, is it, I think? Not sure about that. Don't have the notes in front of me, unfortunately. I have some concerns about TAP. Now, I attended their most recent board meeting at which there's discussion about funding. There's a lot of interest in TAP about getting a lot of concentration about getting more funding. There seems to be a main concentration of TAP. Less interest at TAP about how to fund more artists in Fargo, getting more funding to artists in need. And that's one thing I've talked to them about, and they're not particularly interested in that. They don't think that that's a main interest that they have. They don't think they should be giving all of their grant money or most of it to artists in need. Why not? Why not let artists who don't need grant money get money other ways and give grant money to the artists who actually need it? I don't think that that's really a concept, that should be hard to swallow. But anyways, their focus is on money. I think that the problem I had at that meeting was that the chair of the board said, when Dana said, I'm going to be going over to the city, and for each of these $50,000 projects through the city, it's not just going to be that I'm going to be going over there, for a few visits each time. Linda Boyd said, oh, you'd be surprised how you could pick up $50,000 from the city for just going over there a few times. Okay. Now that's when they know that I'm sitting there, and they know that I'm the type of person that speaks up when I hear something that I don't like. And they know that I'm sitting right there at that meeting. So my question is, what do they say when I'm not there?
Okay, that's our 3 minutes. Thank you. I would invite you to stay. Nicole and Dana both are going to be talking about this additional role that TAP is going to be playing. And I think maybe some questions will be answered, and if not, then maybe we could hear from you and maybe take them up next time. Thank you. Okay, So we're going to do subcommittee updates and reports, and it's written out, but in the event that there's something different, we'll just run through them. Okay, so capacity committee.
We met with Nicole about auditing and looking at the processes involved in our call for artists. We also talked about the new project that may be coming up that's going to be Arts for the Holiday, which would be a collection of the Arts Partnership, the FMVA, the Fargo Visual Artists, and the Red River Watercolor Society. We would be working together with the city to create something, an event that would go in the Civic.
In the Civic, and it would be the first weekend in December, so it'll be an art show, right?
Second weekend of December.
Oh, good, 'cause then I can come.
One day event,
Okay.
load in the 10th, and the event is the 11th of December, second Saturday of December.
Okay.
Meeting about this with Dana and the Red River Watercolor Society and the representative from the FMVA. We were all in agreement that we didn't want to hold an event where the arts were going to fall down publicly. If it's not going to be a successful event, we don't want to do it.
Okay. Yeah, so you're,
So we've been doing interest inventories of our constituents.
okay, all right. So still may or may not happen.
Still is in the may or may not happen stage.
Okay.
We need to do some fundraising and get all of our ducks in a row before we really announce to the world that this is an event.
Okay, sounds good. Let me see, then neighborhood, I guess, Ann, do you want to talk about or not? You want me to do it? I can do it. I want to put you on the spot and make you really uncomfortable.
Sure. So, my recollection is that we have not met since our last meeting as a commission. We do have an upcoming meeting scheduled, and that will be with Tracy, Deb, myself, and I believe with Nicole as well.
I don't think Nicole's going to come. And then
Okay.
what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the idea of working with schools to have, schools and other public entities regarding getting original public art onto utility boxes. And the process, we're going to start devising that process. Start doing the what. We're going to start putting together the what. So we'll be relying on, I think, everybody on the commission based on their subcommittee roles to pitch in on that, but more to come. Yes. And then development.
I can go. We have not formally met since our last meeting. We have our next meeting on the calendar. I don't know if you've done anything additional, but I do have a couple different meetings set up with private commercial developers to start the conversation, just to see from their perspective before we get too far into it, you know, what's their thoughts, where do they want to see this go, and you know, start to hear some of their feedback. So
Okay.
I'm excited for that. The first one will happen tomorrow.
And we are also looking into some historical data and success stories from other communities that would help us guide the plans along before they are formally stated and recommended to the city.
That's great. Yeah, wonderful. I love how this is all working. So thank you guys very much for all your hard work. That's fantastic. Okay, so big deal here now. We're going to have the election of chair and vice chair. So I'm going to open up the floor for nominations for chair. And the term is July of 2021 to June of 2022. Just as a reminder, traditionally what we've done is the chair has served for 2 years, so is elected twice. Then we'll also have an election for a vice chair, and the vice chair traditionally succeeds the chair. So the vice chair works for 2 years as vice chair, and then 2 years as chair. So thank you so much for that. That's a lovely commitment. But anyway, if there are, does anybody have a nomination besides me? No? Okay, so I would like to nominate Tracy Jordry as chair for the period of July 21 to June 22. Okay, and can I get a motion
I move to appoint Tracy Jordry as chair.
and a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor
Aye.
I
and opposed? Congratulations, Tracy. Thank you so much. Okay, I'd like to open the floor for appointments for vice chair. I would nominate Joe Williams. He's aware, just because he's not here doesn't mean I'm doing this behind his back. He's aware, he has agreed. So I would like to nominate Joe Williams as vice chair. Can I get a motion?
I would make the motion to nominate Joe Williams as vice chair.
Okay, can I get a
I'll second.
second? Yes, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Same sign? Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your commitment. And while we're on the subject, I'd like to thank all of you for allowing me to serve as chair. It's been a pleasure. And I'm happy to just take a regular seat and join with you in the rest of the work. So this will be fun. Okay. Our next item is, it's the designation of the Arts Partnership as a local arts agency. We heard a little bit about this from Mr. Cohn, plus we had attachments in our packet. Nicole is going to talk about that. And Dana Dalval is also here for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, first of all, Deb reached out to me last week or earlier this week, and we realized in paragraph number 3, there's kind of a sentence gap missing. And so I'll just start from the beginning as a result. And Ms. Duvall, Dana Duvall with Arts Partnership reached out to me along with Kim Konikow, I think is how you say her name, with the North Dakota Council for the Arts. And with the Arp Funds are federally designated funds as a result to the COVID pandemic recovery. And the North Dakota Council for the Arts is eligible to receive funds. And there's also an eligibility for local arts agencies to, through the NEA, receive direct funds. And so Kim reached out, she's talking to other agencies across the state to make sure these federal funds get distributed on a statewide level. And there, as you can imagine, with the amount of federal funds coming, this is pretty unusual and unique. And so just a normal allocation, and I can speak to this like from our other federal funds, most of our agencies are staffed to deliver grant funds for what we normally receive in a normal year. And so obviously this is a lot more than that. I think I heard Kim mention there's up to an additional 700,000 plus. And so she's trying to set up the infrastructure across the state to distribute those funds for the NEA more directly. And so Dana reached out to me and said, this idea of a local arts agency. A local arts agency, first of all, is it's kind of a descriptor under federal terms by the National Endowment for the Arts. And there's lots of different definitions for it. I provided a couple examples in your packet from other states and cities that I've tried to find a catch-all for some general descriptions. And perhaps Dana can talk a little bit more about what that means. But a local arts agency is, so Dana reached out to me, and with the history of the Arts Partnership, previously Lake Agassiz Arts Council, that was the original intent of the Arts Council, and I know we have some of our founding members here. And so perhaps we can talk about that a little bit more. And so the city of Fargo in no way is really the city of Fargo as an agency, nor as a city going to be receiving these funds. These funds are going to be going from the state to local arts agencies across the state. And those local arts agencies are working with the state to have grant rounds and distribution, and perhaps Dana can explain more about that, how that process is going to work. So all we need to know in terms of my understanding is the only way the city is involved is really recognizing and acknowledging and as an element to understand how this is influencing our arts and culture community as a whole. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. So what we're asking for tonight is basically if the City Arts and Culture Commission, I quite honestly, and I mentioned this to the subcommittee because I had the call just prior to the capacity subcommittee and relying on Mr. Offit's history with the Arts Partnership, I had I struggled where to bring the request to, if it belonged with the Arts and Culture Commission, if it belonged with the City Commission, if it went straight to our administration office, it's kind of unusual. And so I kind of, in my mind, said, well, let me just bring all things art to the Arts Culture Commission as a good place to provide that guidance, especially with the experts on our panel. And so that's why we're in front of you tonight. So we're seeking your support to basically, what we would turn if you were to designate this is we would have a record of our minutes, plus I would ask a letter from the mayor. Basically, you'd be authorizing a letter from the mayor to the Arts Partnership recognizing that category. And then Dana can talk about what that means for her moving forward. And so, Dana, if you'd like to come up for any questions, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Hello, thank you for having me tonight. I think Nicole did a good job of sort of explaining what this is. There's sort of a two-part process to this. The first piece is these ARP funds, which are unexpected to the state and have a little bit overwhelmed the state. And so from the North Dakota Council on the Arts perspective, they can only give grants to particular kinds of arts organizations. They have to be 501c3s. They can't be fiscally sponsored. And so what Kim's concern is that it will not reach the depth and breadth of small, fiscally sponsored, new and emerging nonprofits across the state. So what we have done, if the city will approve this, is Minot will manage the top half from Bismarck North, east to west, and we will manage the bottom half from Bismarck South, east to west of the state for this one-time experience of funding the smallest of the small, little, tiny town arts organizations. Interestingly, just for everyone's information, there are grant dollars also available through the North Dakota Council on the Arts for individual artists through this grant round. So we will not be managing any of that, but there is a significant portion of that money that can go to individual artists because the North Dakota Council already has a history of funding individuals. So that will be the beginning phase, but what is of a little bit even more value to me and hope for the future is that once we are considered a formal local arts agency, then we have the opportunity to continue to apply for funding in a specific pool of money from the National Endowment for the Arts, both to do collaborative programming. I don't believe we can re-grant it, but we can use it to lift up our own sector inside the metro. And that's of particular value to me as we keep working to figure out how to better fund the whole sector, top to bottom. We only need one letter for us to be able to work in all three cities, across 2 states, and in 2 counties. So as Nicole said, it doesn't tie you to anything. It doesn't mean that you could never make a switch from the city on how we receive funding. It just gives us the credibility of a city saying that, yes, this is the entity that we use to support the arts through our dollars, and we'd like to see that happen at the federal level too.
Questions?
And if I could just add a couple
Okay.
things. One is in my limited research, cities or metros can have more than one local arts agencies, and different states have done different things. And the easiest way for me to attribute this, and for the folks that might be watching, is it's similar to other federal funds. So if you look at the Department of Transportation or the Department of Housing, a lot of times those federal funds go to a state agency, and then those state agencies go to local agencies and then are governed at a metro-wide level. So you have your council of governments, MetroCog for transportation. And what that does is it makes sure things are being coordinated at a regional level. And so that's why as a city, we like this idea of supporting the arts community because we know arts don't just end at the border and experiences happen all over. And so I know Dana has been reaching out to other jurisdictions and counties to just do her advocacy as she does that. So anyway, just wanted to bring that. And then maybe once we have discussions on this, I did realize I did not add clarity to Mr. Cohen's comment, and I'd be glad to add clarity to that because that's kind of, well, this is one item. I think what Dana brought to her board meeting and the conversation Mr. Cohen referenced is a different item. So I don't want those two items or conversations to necessarily connect, if you will.
Okay. Brad?
So Dana, this seems like a real no-brainer and easy to support. Just a little question for you and your staff. So with this influx of funds, I would imagine that it has to be dispersed within a certain timetable, perhaps a year or two.
It's a calendar year.
A calendar year.
Well,
Yes.
excuse me, it's a fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th.
Okay. And so any thoughts, concerns about that amount of work coming to your staff?
Our intention is to hire the woman who's doing it on behalf of the North Dakota Council on the Arts. They have brought someone in to manage the CARES program, and that woman will also manage the ARP funds from the state. And Kim has spoken to her, and we will hire her as well. There's resources that come with it for us to pay for someone because we absolutely could not take it on if it were my little staff. So thank you for thinking about that.
Well, and it's pretty nice that there are some ongoing benefits for you guys after this with that designation too. So-
Yeah, I think it will serve the community really well, actually, because there are currently none in the state. So Minot and the Arts Partnership would be the only two.
Any other questions?
Just a clarifying question as well. Certainly appreciate and support the effort. And just to make sure I understand the material that was presented in our packet, the way I read it was if some action isn't taken, if you aren't able to secure a letter, that these funds will not become available. Is that
Right, they will not come to the Arts Partnership.
right? And without another arts agency being tapped to do this, if it's not tapped, then the funds just go unused, correct?
Well, I think the North Dakota Council will have to figure out
An
how
alternative.
they have to be spent. So ultimately what it will do is it will mean that smallest tier of tiny organizations will not have access to it. And nobody wants to see that happen.
Sure. And then I'm just curious to know the entity in Minot that's going to handle that top.
The Minot Area Arts Council.
Okay, so it's also an arts council.
It is, and they have a history of regranting exactly like we do.
Okay, thank you.
Dana, I have a question. Is this part of a long-term plan for the Arts Partnership? Are you thinking of expanding if you become a local arts agency, and or is this just for now for the ARP funds?
Certainly, we would use it to expand. There's no guarantee because you're a known local arts agency that you'll qualify for additional funds in the future, but it certainly opens a door that has never been open to us before. And we would only use those funds as they serve the current mission and our ability to support the sector in Fargo-Moorhead and West Fargo.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question, and this is awesome, right? I mean,
Thank you.
These are the best kind of conversations to have. But just from a clarification standpoint, it doesn't change then anything in regards to our relationship with TAP, correct? I mean, this is just an enhancement upon, right? We're just providing a letter.
Yes, it does not tie you to
Yep.
anything.
Perfect, thank you.
Is there anything else? Okay, well, in that event, can I get a motion?
I'd be happy to support the motion.
Okay. Recommended motion, okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, You're in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chair, if I might add, first of all, thank you for that. And if you would entertain me, I can maybe add some clarifying statements for maybe the other reference we've been talking to the Arts Partnership about.
Yes.
And so John alluded to it, Mr. Offit alluded to it a little bit. I've been reaching out to the Capacity Subcommittee and to talk a little bit about how we can, in the interim, fill in the gaps with Megan and Maggie not here. And we love Adam, but he's on, I think, week 4, maybe week 5. And so, this might be a good time to also introduce Debbie Ensrud with our office. Some of you may know her already, but we're officially taking minutes in a real way. And so Debbie is one of our office administrators, and she will be joining us moving forward. But anyway, to ask for further clarification real quick, I did reach out to Dana and the Arts Partnership to see if there is some capacity as we talk about curating art within City Hall and as we talk about the call for artists and how we might be able to curate that. So at this point in time, we're still under discussions. I'll probably, if the Arts Partnership is interested in offering a proposal, I would help scope that out a little bit so we understand what the city's commitment would be. I would bring that forward to the subcommittee, and then that would come in front of you as Arts and Culture Commission, and then eventually in front of the City Commission. So those would have three steps forward. So that also, not to be confused with the local arts agency, this would literally just be technical assistance for staff and to support the City of Fargo operations. So I just wanted to provide that clarity.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions? Oh, yes.
So is there an effort, I certainly support the need for technical support and staff support, obviously, but are there current hiring postings in process that you're intending to eventually fill internally, or is there a look to maintain some contractual outsourcing, if you will, of some technical support in the long term, or is this more of a short-term vision?
No, thanks for that question. Great question. So strategically, I have 2 hopes. One is we're in the middle of the budget process. Obviously we can replace Megan. Adam is Maggie's replacement. We were able to hire him a little bit early. But with Megan's background and knowledge and kind of growing up with the arts and culture from the beginning, like I did, we're wanting to kind of train in a hurry that capacity building of some of our history of how we got here. And so my hope is both. Is one, we just posted for a position, and then we're getting ready to post for another position, depending on those expertise and how those come forward. As you know, the discipline of city planning can vary wildly, and so we're going to be looking for skill sets and resources and project management knowledge and things like that. And so, separate from that, though, I think it is time as we advance our work to provide some with your help and knowledge and expertise, and with some technical knowledge and expertise, whether it's from the Arts Partnership or there's Springboard for the Arts, Forecast Public Arts. There's entities out there that kind of can advance our work, I believe. And so very project specific is how I see it, but I would work very closely with you, and because I want to build that kind of integration of operations so that it's not so staff dependent in terms of if a person shows up or not, and it gets to be integrated with experts. And so eventually growing that into a more robust program, if that answers your question, Ann. So both.
Anybody else? Questions or comments? No? Okay. So our next item is to review the bylaws. If everybody had a chance to take a look at those. They're pretty simple. And there was just one thing, Nicole, that kind of came to that I kind of noticed on the bylaws, is that the time of the meeting is put down I'm wondering if there's a better way to do that where we can not put a specific time on there.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay.
And reference an adopted calendar or adopted
Yeah.
timeframe.
Thank you. John?
There was talk up here that 4 o'clock would be preferred, that our meeting time is wrong, that the paperwork is right.
All right.
Actually, staff would love that personally, but no, I guess that's a great question, John, and maybe I defer back to, chair and vice chair, or future chair and future vice chair, and for discussion. And we can certainly, as long as we properly advertise, notice, and update everybody and process, we can certainly coordinate about that.
What? We'll take that into consideration. Actually, I'm not really ready to make a decision on that today because we're short 3 members.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
think
So I
it's-
think that we should,
What we can do is do like a doodle survey or doodle
Yes.
poll or something like that and just see where the
Yeah.
majority lands. It is hard to find a time that everybody agrees to, so.
Yeah. majority will rule.
But it's worth asking the question and we'll
Yeah.
toss it out there.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I remember why it moved to 5, but yeah, it's been
Yeah,
that way for a
and-
few years. Yeah,
And Chair, just to clarify, for those who haven't read or seen the bylaws, the current bylaws state that the meeting should occur at 4 o'clock. We
Yeah.
currently are in the practice of meeting at 5 o'clock. So
right, yeah,
That's the 4 o'clock reference and where it's coming from.
yeah. And even if we do go back to 4 o'clock, I'd still rather have the bylaws not specify a time. So,
I
gives us a little,
concur.
yeah, a little flexibility. So, yeah, let's do a doodle poll and see where everybody lands. And we'll kind of go based on that. Okay. Was there anything else with the bylaws?
So here's a question.
Okay.
Over the last year with COVID, the need to move to, well, we couldn't do Zoom meetings, but doing electronic video meetings, does that need to have some sort of something in here referencing that as an option? All meeting, like the meeting locations, everything's keyed to like meeting in person. I'm just wondering if, based on what we've learned over the last year of what's possible, I mean,
Right.
if we were to have another pandemic, flood, emergency, something,
Sure.
should there
that-
be an addendum in there somewhere that would provide guidance for that?
It could certainly be somehow noted under special meetings instead of regular meetings. Maybe that's where it's addressed.
All regular meetings shall be held. Yes. I guess we need to talk about that. Maybe figure out a way to do an amendment or something.
Give some flexibility for it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Ann. Yeah, that's a good catch. Okay. So, I don't think we can do a motion yet. Okay, well, that's 2 things to work on. Bylaws. are
Yeah,
fine.
as staff, maybe just as follow-up, these are all good comments. We'll make some amendments, work with our city attorney, and then in your next packet, have a draft update. And then feel free, no, bylaws can be a little wordsmithy, but it's good to do it on an annual basis just to keep it current. And so, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anything else on the bylaws before we close that? Okay, so last item is staff update.
I really don't have, I think maybe just 2 announcements. And then in your packet, you'll see information about the core neighborhood plan. We'll try to use these staff reports to, I think we fell off a little bit during the pandemic, but we'll try to use these staff reports to give you kind of a glimpse of what the city department or city hall, our city organization is doing as a whole that might be interesting to the public and the Arts and Culture Commission. And one thing of note is our core neighborhood plan and land development code has been, diagnostic has been completed. And, for, both of those connect with Arts and Culture Commission. I know Deb Williams sat on the steering committee for the core neighborhood plan itself, and I know several members, Ann and Tracy Wolvatney and others, sat in on some of the public meetings and represented their neighborhoods. So we look forward to that integrating with some of the recent actions you just took in terms of neighborhood artwork and the Arts Wraps program. Also, of note, the city just hired a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That person will be starting in July. We see this person integrating not only as a community as a whole, but internally with city departments and city boards and commissions. And so just for your note there, probably two more time-sensitive announcements. In years past, we've had booths for the Native American Commission and the Human Relations Commission, basically our boards that want to engage with community and show up at community events with booths for engagement. And this year, we've been trying to work towards this movement because we'll have, generally the city might have 3 or 4 booths at an event. And so this year, we're trying something new where we partner with our other departments and have one City of Fargo booth. And so we're going to have a booth at the upcoming Juneteenth Freedom Celebration at Lindenwood Park this coming Saturday. And then in August, we're going to have a sponsorship and booth at Pride in the Park. And as board members, you're more than welcome to come. In past years, we've had sign-up sheets and things and shifts. A lot more relaxed. So I'd say come when you can and hang out. It will be in conjunction with the police department, and you might see some planning staff there, other board members from HRC, NAC, sorry, I should stop using abbreviations, Human Relations Commission, Native American Commission, and Community Development Committee and staff and police. And so we'll try that this year, see how it works, and looking forward to that. So if you want to come or would like to know more information, there's contact in the packet for you. And then the Lions Club Spirit of Sandbagger project is moving forward, working on logistics. And Greg Schilberger in the city administration communications is helping with some project management on that. I think there's some lighting being integrated with that includes conduits and things like that. So, but it is moving forward, and I think the fundraising is going well. So stay tuned as we would announce a ribbon cutting, if you will, dedication ceremony. And then we are behind the scenes working on the legalities of operations and manual and things like that. So I'll probably, once those get a little further defined, I'll route that to you guys because you might be interested in seeing those specifications and details of information. So just some updates.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have questions or comments on this information? Okay.
I have, sorry, one more thing. Joe Williams did want to announce that Friday, June 25th, the Northern Plains Summer Art Institute will be having a public reception at the Plains Art Museum at 11:30, and you'll see more coming out as part of that, but Joe wanted me to pass that on to you all.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay, June 25th. Okay, does anybody have anything else?
I have one thing.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, Deb.
Oh, you're welcome.
This has been a challenging year, to say the least. I think you have probably had a bit more challenging of a year than maybe some of us have.
Yes.
And you have handled it with such incredible leadership and grace and have not missed a beat. It has been unbelievable.
Wow.
So thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
really been fun.
It's been a pleasure. So with that, we'll close this meeting and see you all in July. Thank you.